Welcome to the Bookers Alliance podcast, where we hold the pencil and the pencil is power. Coming at you right now is your host, Marky Mark, along with the man, the myth, the legend, Frank Donaldson. Join us as we discuss the ever-changing landscape of professional wrestling. So hang on tight, you jabronis, and enjoy the ride. All right, welcome in, everybody. Thank you for joining today's episode of the Bookers Alliance podcast. Today's episode topic, a little bit controversial, maybe. Just a little bit, would you say, Frank? Just a little?
Probably just a little bit. Depending on who you are. Depending on your perspective, it may be a little bit controversial. But, I mean, it's going to be fun, so...
Yeah, it's going to be fun, and we're going to try to keep it as PG-13 as we can, but there are some parts of this topic where, it might get a little bit out there, so...
Yeah, we'll keep it light. We'll keep it light. But today's episode, we're going to be talking about the all-American hero... What would you call him? What was he? That's the Immortal.
The Immortal?
Hulk.
The Immortal?
Hogan!
So we'll talk about the Immortal Hulk Hogan, and we're going to talk about not his wrestling career, but what happened after his wrestling career.
Post-WWE days. It's going to be... He had a lot of ups and downs. He went on a roller coaster during those post-WWE days. So, yeah, we're just going to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to talk about him, and, he was one of the most charismatic individuals in the wrestling era there, and, running around, doing all kinds of promos, and let me tell you, Mean Gene, and, running around doing things like this.
So what you gonna do when Hulk Hogan runs wild on you?
I don't think I want to be run over by Hulk Hogan.
No, nobody did back, especially in that era when that was going on. Those late 80s, mid to late 80s, early 90s. Nobody wanted to be in front of that train.
Yeah, that train was moving fast.
Oh yeah, fast and free. And a lot of money was getting made off of that. So
yeah, so after his wrestling career kind of came to an end, he found himself back in the spotlight again, but this time on a reality TV show, I believe on MTV, wasn't it?
Yep, VH1 actually. VH1. Hogan knows best.
Yeah, Hogan. Maybe he didn't know best after all this.
Well,
talk about.
Well, we didn't know Hogan best, so
No,
as we came to find out, we found out a lot. But you know what they always say. Sometimes you don't want to meet your heroes because they don't always pan out to be exactly what you want. But I got an interesting take on that. We'll get to it.
Yeah, so again, he was on a reality show called Hogan's Know Best. This was with him and his wife at the time, Linda Hogan, along with his son Nick and daughter Brooke.
Brooke, absolutely.
Yeah, so I remember watching that. I remember it was kind of a play on the Osbournes, who had that show, a big hit. And
that was kind of a thing at that time.
Yeah.
Reality TV was kind of the big thing right during that point of TV where you get a lot of stars that you'd never seen behind the scenes. You'd only ever see them doing whatever their thing was, and now you're looking at them behind the scenes. And I don't know, it didn't always seem to work out for a lot of those reality stars. USA has one now that comes on right after Monday Night Raw. The Chrisleys Knows Best, I think it is.
Oh, Lord.
Same thing. Chrisley's supposed to know best, and I don't know if they know best because if I'm remember it right, two of them Chrisleys are in jail right now.
Yeah, so. Tax evasion.
Yeah.
So we got to look into his personal life a little bit. They did. I do remember seeing some things. His daughter was trying to do a music career.
Yeah, so that's where the initial idea for the show came from. Hogan signed on to do that because he thought it was going to be the platform for his daughter to launch her music career from. So, he figured it would get her some connections, obviously get her in touch with VH1, and, they could make some things happen. She had a music video come out with Paul Wall. I don't remember the name of the song, but she had a hit single come out with Paul Wall, had a music video out of it, and that was about the last that we heard of it as far as mainstream goes.
And then Nick was a producer, was he not?
Yeah, so Nick had a lot of stuff going on. He did some DJing, he did some car racing that we'll talk about a little later, in some of the scandals. But, yeah, he had a lot going on. But, I mean, you're Hulk Hogan's son. You're going to get the rub wherever you need it, one way or the other, in whatever you're trying to go to, if it's something celebrity based. Yeah, and I just saw him the other day. Him and Hulk were promoting karaoke night at Hogan's Beach Shop. So they're still clanging and banging out there doing their thing.
Yeah, and the one other thing that I remember from the TV show was seeing how kind of beat up Hulk really was.
Yeah.
He was moving around slow. It was kind of sad to see.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't even at the worst of it. Those fans out there who saw Hogan in TNA, that was kind of before the TNA years. That was like post WWE, before TNA. So, I mean, he hadn't even got to his worst case yet. He was just bad. But, hey, a lot of those years in the ring, a lot of that fast living, it took a toll on his body. But like you said, when you see those guys, and they're larger than life and they're superheroes on TV, then you see them, creaking around and, aching and stuff like that. Yeah, it's hard to watch, but he put on a good show for the cameras.
Yeah, and I believe, those health issues were a lot of back issues. Yeah. I think he's, up to 10 back surgeries or something
if like that more now. At this point more. Now. But, yeah, he's definitely had a multitude of back surgeries. I don't know what condition he's in now. We get different reports. I know the last time he was at Raw, I think Kurt Angle said something about, he said he couldn't feel his legs, and then somebody came back and said, well, no, that's not true. He can feel his legs. He walked out there. He walked back. Heard he was walking with a cane, but I also see him doing his promos for the Beach Shop, and he's just standing there doing promos. So you don't know, but I mean that's his personal stuff. So yeah. Hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, and that show was on for a hot minute. I mean, I think they might have made it through 2 or 3 seasons. Not much.
Yeah, they got a couple seasons out of it. Then it spawned off to Brooke Knows Best when the family kind of dissolved as a result of the reality show. They spawned off and did a Brooke Knows Best with Brooke and a couple of her friends that went and lived on the beach or something like that. So yeah, it didn't last very long because I think the cameras being there just exposed too much of their family dynamic.
Yep.
And it just kind of broke that house apart.
Yep. So that's a good segue into kind of what happened there. There was a sort of scandal that kind of arose. So, Frank, I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, Hulk found himself into some scandal. I mean, it was the day, it was the time, it was the craze to get into scandals, and somehow or other we got Hulk Hogan involved in a sex tape. So,
oh no!
No. So that was, like I said, it was going around. Paris Hilton around that time. Kim Kardashian, of course, rose to fame based on her sex tape. So sex tapes were becoming a thing. Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee had broke that.
Yeah, they were the creators.
Oh yeah, they started that when their sex tape leaked or whatever, but. Yep. I don't know if it worked out for them the same way, considering they were at the top of their game when it happened. I think it was kind of detrimental to them, but all these other folks, they found their way into them, to kind of up their stock level. But then there was Hulk Hogan, who was, at the top of wrestling, as the highest of highs. He had done things in wrestling that nobody ever has done since. And, then all of a sudden you find out he got caught in a sex tape with his best friend's wife. And it's like, woo, this is you want to say juicy because, I mean, it's, it's salacious, but then you think about, well, at the time Hulk was in his 50s. Nobody wants to see Hulk Hogan in his 50s making no sex tape.
No.
So, I mean, he's a hero to kids. Nobody wants to correlate those two. I looked up to him as a child. Now, now I'm seeing him do all the. Nobody wants to do that in a Hulk Hogan sex tape. So no. That was like one of the least downloaded sex tapes of all time. But, I mean, it existed. And Gawker TV, they somehow or other they obtained the rights to it, they said, and published it without Hogan's consent. Hogan sued him and made a lot of money off of that lawsuit and put Gawker out of business. So, was it wise for them to do? Probably not, but if their goal, I know Bubba the Love Sponge is the one who released the tape. He leaked it and gave it to Gawker. So I guess, him and Hogan had a falling out. So his goal was to discredit him. So, I mean, I guess he accomplished that. But I think he got sued in that too somewhere. So there's a lot of lawsuits going around. There was a lot of defamation claims and things like that. So, yeah, I don't know if it was worth it in the long run. But, if he wanted to discredit him, if Bubba wanted to discredit Hulk, he accomplished that. So that was the one thing that came out of that mess.
Yeah, and mess it was because unfortunately, something comes out like that. It it bleeds into everything because of the popularity of who was involved.
Yeah, exactly.
The guy involved was huge pop culture icon.
Yep.
And again, a lot of the quote unquote idolization of this man was from kids.
Yep.
Growing up during the 80s.
Yeah.
Mr.
That
Frank.
was my childhood.
Yeah, Mr. Frank, you even got your red and yellow on.
Absolutely. I got my red and yellow on it. That's why I said, with that controversy that we talked about, of course, what other controversy spawned out of that, a lot of people say, well, how are you still a Hulk Hogan fan? And like I said, I'll get into it as we continue on, but hey, there's a lot of people say a lot of things. So you don't just take one person at their worst and say that's what I'm going to judge this person on. I take the body of work and take the person as a whole and say, this is what I judge a person on. So yeah, I can still wear the red and yellow and still train, say my prayers, eat my vitamins, believe in myself, and
Yep.
I'm also still wear the NWO whenever I get a chance. So you'll see me in some black and white on occasion. Every now and again, some red and black. So hey, Hulk Hogan was my guy. So that didn't go away just because they said he said some stuff. So.
Now I'm gonna get into something real quick because I heard you say something and I gotta ask the question because curious minds want to know. You mentioned the sex tape, but then you also mentioned body of work within 2 heartbeats of each other. What body of work are you talking about there, sir?
So I'm talking about his wrestling career,
Okay.
WWE career. So.
Okay, we're making sure we're talking which body we talking here.
Nah, so I don't know what Bubba's wife looked like, so I can't judge on what happened or what it looked like or anything because God is my witness. I did not see that tape, so I have no clue how it went.
Y'all should see him, everybody. He's got his hand on the Bible, one hand in the air, affirming that he did not.
I swear before all that is holy, there ain't no chance in hell I watched that sex tape. Oh no, absolutely not.
But stemming from that, it kind of started snowballing some things for Hulk. Other family issues started happening. So let's talk a little bit about those family issues and kind of what happened there.
Well, like I said, coming out of that reality show, of course, him and his wife got a divorce. They just felt exposed, and there was a lot of drama around that. His ex-wife had a much younger boyfriend that kind of moved in. She sued Hulk, took all his worldly goods, as they call them, the house, a lot of cars, stuff like that. And these are, of course, this is a recount of other people's assessments of the situation. I wasn't there, I didn't represent him. I'm not on the ends of it. I'm just kind of recapping what I've read over the years, what I've read and heard. But I mean, the divorce and breakup left Hulk in a bad way. It just financially, at least, it left him in a bad way. Then his son got into some trouble with, car racing. He was out street racing and had a real bad wreck. And, I guess his best friend that was riding with him was, severely injured. And there was a lot of drama that came out of that between the family and blame to go around and, just everywhere. The daughter, of course, that kind of led her, she didn't have what was considered scandal, but I guess she resulted in Hulk's most, serious scandal when she was dating somebody of a different race of her, and Hulk had a negative word or two to say about that. And, that got out in that same sex tape leak when all those tapes came out. All of this information started coming out. They were not only recording Hulk in the sex act, they were recording him, having private conversations and, drinking and just opening up and, being vulnerable when he was, while he was intoxicated, and they caught him saying a whole bunch of stuff on there. They just released it all again in an attempt to discredit him. And they did. I mean, they definitely put a black eye on his career, regardless of what he had done for the 20 years prior to that. At that point in time, most everybody at some level or another judged him on what he said. So, and of course, like I said, I don't shy away from it. I'll tell you what he said. He dropped the N-word referring to a boyfriend that Brooke was dating, repeated times he dropped it. And everybody said, "Oh my God, I can't believe Hulk Hogan said it." And, as a Hulk Hogan fan, I mean, don't get me wrong, I was taken aback. Like, whoa, wait a minute now. Hell, what the hell you thinking? You're cool, but you don't get that pass, But, and it took a while. And, I listened to a lot of WWE performers like New Day, and Mark Henry was with the company then. A lot of people had a lot of different things to say about it. Some good, some bad, some indifferent. I mean, and I just kind of had to take my own thing away from it. At the end of the day, I came to realize behind closed doors, a lot of people say a lot of stuff that you don't know. So to say, well, I'm going to judge him because he got caught saying it is basically that. I would be judging him on the fact that he got caught saying it, to whereas anybody and everybody that I encounter on a day-to-day basis may very well do the same thing, and they just didn't get caught.
Right.
So I got to a point where I said, he was at his lowest of lows and he got caught doing something dumb. Hell, everybody gets caught doing something dumb. Trust me. So, I said, am I going to take, a day or two of, bad decisions and say, now all of a sudden, I'm no longer a fan of his, I could care less about him as a celebrity athlete, whatever the case may be. And I just resolved like, no, I'm really not, and if I remember right, I think Mark Henry said the same thing. Mark Henry said, "Hey, I grew up idolizing this guy, and he made a mistake. He effed up,
Right.
Are we gonna, is he condemned for life because of that?" And like I said, again, I've known a lot of people that were great friends to me that, they were smiling in your face, but, behind closed doors, that word comes out with no other. And eventually somehow or another, if they get caught, they're like, oh, I thought it was cool, or, I didn't know it was a big deal, or blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it all depends on who you're dealing with and who, the intention behind it. My take always has been the intention of the person. If I know the person as a person and they say something like that, people get offended if you're singing a song and you say it in the song where the artist is saying it. But in me, I would say that person, if I know you as a person, then I know what your intention is behind it. Did you was it a slip of the tongue, or, is there malice behind it?
Right.
And at the end of the day, I don't think Hulk Hogan had malice behind it. I think he just said something stupid because he was angry, upset, intoxicated. And, of course, when the tapes were released, they only released what he said. They were very smart not to release anything that they said. So we don't know who all said what. We only know the audio that they played of Hulk Hogan saying stuff. So, what was that whole situation? Did everybody say it in the room and Hulk repeated it? Did Hulk lead it? Did he say it 100 more times? We don't know. So I'm not going to judge him on that because, who am I to judge? Like I say, I say a lot of messed up stuff too. I say it to people's face. I'm offensive as hell. Anybody who actually knows me knows I ain't got no problem with being offensive. But you can toe a line, you can cross a line in thinking stuff's funny. Now, I've done that many a times with people. I've said stuff that I thought was hilarious, thought they would think it was hilarious, and then they get upset by it. You're like, oh, well, okay, you got to tell me where the line is, where the cutoff is. Now that I know where the cutoff is, we won't get to that anymore. But up to that point, I done said some stuff that had either toed that line or crossed that line for many people. So I'm not that person to judge anybody and say, you said some stuff. Now, if he says it again, if he would have said it to my face, if we said, he saw Mark Henry walking down the hallway and called him that, hey, these are now you're a repeat offender. This is who you are as a person.
Different story at that.
Exactly. But you say, no, you said it once, you got caught saying it. Clearly drunk, he was intoxicated and drunk and mad. He was upset about the situation. So of course he lashed out. He said whatever he thought he could lash out with and hurt somebody with in the moment. It just got caught on camera doing it, but a lot of people say a lot of things. So anybody out there that's listening that thinks he's the only one that said it, don't believe that.
No, there's been other instances of people getting caught on camera and then cancel culture came for them, and it's just in this day and age, there's never a corner anywhere that there's not a camera or a recording device. There's too many phones out there. It just it is what it is, and it's inevitable.
Yep.
But yeah, that was kind of one of the biggest things that also led to our next point here, where Vince and the WWE tried to Thanos snap Hogan out of existence.
What'd he tell him?
You're fired.
As Vince told him, you got to go. He told him, you got to get out of the Hall of Fame. WWE was in panic mode. They said, we got to distance ourselves as far away from him as possible, because the last thing, and I mean the last thing we want to have happen, is for us to get associated with this as a company, because, Hulk Hogan and WWE kind of, they're like peanut butter and jelly. When you think of one, even though Hulk hasn't wrestled for WWE in 20 years, he hadn't been the headliner in WWE for 30 years. There's still a lot of people out there that ain't listening to this podcast first and foremost, let's say that. But there's a lot of people that when you say the word wrestling, oh yeah, Hulk Hogan and them.
Yeah.
They have no idea that Hulk Hogan hadn't wrestled in forever. All they know when they hear wrestling is, oh, Hulk Hogan and them.
As intricate as Hogan was to WCW and the NWO storyline, as intricate as that is, even me, when I think Hulk Hogan, I think of the red and the yellow and the 80s wrestling. That's
he's
Hogan.
synonymous with that.
Yeah.
When, because before Hulk Hogan, wrestling has been around since the 1800s, since back in the Greco-Roman days. Wrestling predates all of us and anything that we all know. But when wrestling came to a professional wrestling, when it came to a mainstream media frenzy, it hit the mainstream. Everybody was hearing about it. It was associated with Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
The Rocket Wrestling, Hulk Hogan was on that cartoon, that Hulk Hogan's Rocket Wrestling. On the MTV specials, Hulk Hogan was there. The very first WrestleMania, Hulk Hogan was there. Muhammad Ali, Mr. T, Lee Iacocca, everybody. But who was the biggest person, who was the biggest picture on that poster where all those celebrities were? It was Hulk Hogan. So, essentially when people think of wrestling, they think of Hulk Hogan. So when the news, when TMZ and Entertainment Tonight and your local news and CNN and not Fox News, because they thought everything he said was okay there. But everybody else.
Oh, no.
Popped him again.
No.
Anytime all these news outlets say Hulk Hogan got caught on tape saying this offensive word, well, the WWE knew automatically, oh hell, they're not hearing Hulk Hogan said this arbitrarily. They're saying Hulk Hogan, representative of WWE, has now said this, and this is what he thinks. So they had to do everything they could to wipe his name away from wrestling as a whole. And it's impossible to do, but they had to do something. They removed him from the Hall of Fame. They pulled him from the intro. They pulled him from the video games. They pulled his image away from anything that he was associated with that they could get their hands on, short of the network. Which if they removed him from the network, that's erasing at least a third of the network. So
yeah, what's the old saying that you are known by the company that you keep?
Exactly.
So that's kind of the
guilty by association.
Where that fell. And they did go through the network and eliminate some things. Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
Roddy Piper.
Yep.
So
they definitely eliminated, or they definitely went through and took out where Booker T had referred to Hulk with the same word a few years before. They shout out to Booker out there. Booker, what's up, Book? Book, let him know. Hulk Hogan, we coming for you. Oh, sorry.
We got excited for a minute.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what happened to Booker. Booker got fired. Booker was in a tag team with Harlem Heat, for Christ's sake. He was going for the tag belt. Somehow or another, he went on a tangent. Booker decided, you know what? One day I'm going to be the world champion, and I'm going to declare right now.
Yep.
And called out Hulk Hogan and told him he was coming for him, and dropped some words, and everybody said, oh, well, hell. But again, this was on TBS. This was a Turner Network. So they just let that play. That was Atlanta-based wrestling. They said, all right, we see nothing wrong with that. Just let that roll. So they let it roll, but yeah. Whew.
But even after the Thanos snap, 5 years later, within the Marvel timeline, people came back and Hogan made a comeback into the world wrestling entertainment.
Yeah, he found his way back. As with everybody, remember Ric Flair, the whole plane ride from hell incident, they kind of tried to erase him and sweep him under the rug for a little bit. He made his way back, it's just when you're hot. When you're toxic, you have to go away. When that toxicity, dissolves, you come on back in. You can't have wrestling with a living Hulk Hogan and not have Hulk Hogan affiliated in one form or another, because it's just not right. For all he did with the creation of wrestling, you don't just freeze him out. Yeah, he had to go away for a little while. I mean, like you said earlier about cancel culture. This predated the official cancel culture. This was kind of the very first taste that we got of it. Was, oh God, you messed up. You done said some stuff. You got to go away for a little bit. And then after a while, when the heat dies down, when the smoke clears, you come on back in. We quietly insert you back in. They quietly put Hogan back in the Hall of Fame. Gave it a couple of years. They re-inducted him with the NWO. They let him lead into the hosted WrestleMania. What was that, 37? Mm-hmm. That didn't go as planned.
Crickets. That's all you heard.
Yeah, I mean boos. That was in Tampa. That's where Hulk Hogan lives. Hulk Hogan has his Hogan's Beat Shop bar in Tampa. He's been a Tampa resident for quite a long time, but yeah, WrestleMania, it ain't all Tampa people there. I mean, you got people from the world, the world over. And everybody wasn't as forgiving as some other people have been, that. So yeah, Hogan got booed standing next to Titus O'Neil. I mean, they put him right next to the biggest, blackest dude they had on the roster,
Mr. Worldwide Slide.
Exactly. They told him, they say, oh, we're gonna show that he's, that he is forgiven by some, because again, they put him by the biggest, blackest dude they got, and they still booed the hell out of him. They said, you know what? Everybody ain't forgave you yet. I mean, as far as I remember, some of the New Day hadn't forgiven him. They just weren't feeling it. They were
Mark even went on Busted Open one morning and was talking about, hey, I need to hear some apologies. I need to hear some things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before I can get to that point.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and apparently that's what Hulk did. That was kind of one of the things that they told him, we're going to, try and bring you back in. But the first thing we need you to do is go in the locker room and just apologize to the guys. And if I remember right, he went in and kind of gave a generic locker room forgiveness, apology. And a lot of people were like, hey, I need something a little more directed. You don't need to be apologizing to Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns right now. You need to be apologizing to me specifically.
Yeah.
So, that's what, he got there to a point. Some people forgave him. Some people didn't. Some people never will. It just kind of is what it is.
It's on the person.
Yeah.
It's on the person. And I think, like you said, it happened in the moment. It was caught. He can try to make amends, and to me, the amends is believable as long as the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah,
as they
exactly.
say. If he's running around still going through that and making those remarks, then yeah, you weren't sorry.
Yeah, but
you were sorry you got caught.
Exactly, you were sorry you got caught. That's what it is. But since that happened up to now, I mean, I haven't seen hide nor hair of any more instances of that. So as far as I'm concerned, he was forgiven. I'm still a fan. I'm going to be a Hulk Hogan fan until long after Hulk Hogan's gone away from here and wrestling still exists. I'll still be cheering him on. So.
Yeah. So, all right. So that was our topic today, talking about the after pro wrestling for one Hulk Hogan.
Controversy creates cash.
All right. That was, Bischoff, that was his friend.
Absolutely.
There.
Yeah. It all ties in together.
So drop us a line on our social media outlets. What do you think of this topic? What do you think of this situation? How did it impact you? Were you offended by things? What happened? Always drop us a line. We're willing to reach out, discuss topics, discuss things. Hey, if you want to by chance try to be a guest on the show, let's roll with it. Let's see what we can come up with.
Everybody's got an opinion, so
that's it.
We want to hear what you got to say. I mean, let us know.
That's it. So with that, everybody, we thank you for listening to today's episode of the Bookers Alliance, and with that, we bid you adieu.
What you gonna do, brother?
Today's podcast was produced by SBP. You can find our podcast on all major podcast platforms. Also connect with us on our social media accounts. Search for The Bookers Alliance on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.